Okay, it is 12 o'clock and we are going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for the Low Cost Ways to Save Energy webinar. Today, we will give you tips and tricks to help you save money on your energy bills without making intensive changes to your living space. We hope you'll enjoy it and get some useful information. I am Chenille Williams, Energy Specialist with the South Carolina Energy, and with me is Gretchen Poole. Gretchen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Gretchen Poole, and I am a program coordinator with the South Carolina Energy Office. Happy to be here with Chenille today.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so before we get started, remember to put any questions you have for us in the chat, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, here's a little information about the South Carolina Energy Office. This office is a state agency within the Office of Regulatory Staff. We're funded by the U.S. Department of Energy's State Energy Program, and our mission is to promote energy efficiency, renewable energy, and clean transportation. We do that through technical assistance programs, technical assistance programs. We provide financial assistance through grants and loans. We do education and outreach, and we also have a data hub with information about energy usage across the state. Next slide. Okay, so we wanted to make today's presentation a little more interactive. So we'll have several Menti poll questions throughout the presentation. To participate, scan the QR code or go to menti.com and enter the code at the top of the screen. So here is our first question. To get a little more information about you, we'd like to know if you rent or own the space where you live. And we'll give a few minutes for folks to give responses. Okay, we have, many homeowners. Or of the 4, we have homeowners. Okay.
Renter.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like we have quite a few homeowners on the call and a few renters as well. Excuse me. Hopefully the information we provide today will be helpful for both homeowners or renters. That's our objective. Next slide. Okay, our second poll question lets us know what you already know. So the question is, what is one way to save energy in your home? And if you don't know this off the bat, take a guess. It could be something, well, I don't want to tell you what your possible answers are. No spoilers. Okay, turn off lights, weatherization, which is a great term that obviously at least a couple of people know, or one person knows. Switching to LED bulbs. I'll give it a few more seconds in case anyone else has an idea about how to save energy in a home. Adjust thermostat, that's a good one. Seal gas, yeah, service HVAC, good. Okay, these are great ways, and it sounds like a couple of you already know some tips and tricks. So let's get into it. Next slide. The first and biggest thing you can do is understand your energy bill. Here we have a sample bill from Dominion Energy. As you can see, not only does it note the amount due, but it also includes information on your historical usage and how much energy you currently use throughout the month. Now, this image might be a little difficult to see depending on the size of your screen. However, this is a moment for you to realize that you should take time to review your energy bill and see your usage every month. If you want to know how much energy a specific appliance or device uses, we recommend using a kilowatt meter that shows how much energy is being consumed by a specific device. You can also contact your provider for free services, such as Dominion's Home Energy Checkup, that provides customers with a customized report on how to reduce energy use in a home. Just so you know, this service is also available to renters. So renters, you are in luck. There are services for you as well. Okay, next slide. Oh, go back one. Yes. Okay. Now let's move into how to save energy with your appliances. Now we can do the next slide. Okay, energy vampires. An energy vampire is a device that consumes energy when plugged in, even when they aren't in use. Examples include phone chargers, toasters, gaming consoles, lots of different laptops is another example. So there are a couple of different things around the home or devices around the home that you might already leave plugged in. However, energy vampires can consume as much as 20% of your energy usage each month. To remedy this issue, consider using advanced power strips or smart power strips. Unlike ordinary power strips, advanced power strips or smart power strips can shut off the power supply to devices when they are not in use. And you can get those at your local hardware store. Next slide. Our next tip focuses on how to save energy when doing laundry. While most people think the washer itself uses a large percentage of energy, it's actually water heating that consumes the energy. A tip for this, or a few tips for this, are to be sure to only wash full loads and switch to cold water when washing. There are cold water detergents that you can use for these situations. And here's a pro tip. Cold water cleans just as effectively as hot water for most situations. So be sure to do that. Next slide. Yes. Okay, now let's move on to the kitchen and bathroom. It's common practice to open the oven door when checking on food, but did you know you can lose 25% of the heat in the oven when you open it? So let's set a timer when cooking, or use an oven light if you have one, and keep those doors closed. You want to save that heat. No, it will not just help heating your home. We'll talk about thermostats later, but you definitely want to make sure you keep that heat in your oven. Ovens can also be an inefficient way to reheat foods. I know I personally love my air fryer. I feel like I have perfected the art of reheating fries through an air fryer. Pizza is another thing I like to reheat. But microwaves are also a good option, but we all know fries in the microwave just don't taste as good. Another tip is if you have a dishwasher, be sure to run it with a full load of dishes. Of course, if you don't have a dishwasher, you are hand washing dishes, but be mindful again of the energy that's consumed when you are running your hot water. So just Things to think about. Other tips around the kitchen and bathroom include repairing faucet leaks, installing low flow shower heads, and turning off the water while you're brushing your teeth. These tips will also help you save money on your water bill. Next slide. Hey, Gretchen is going to talk about energy around the home.
Yes, thanks, Chenille. So next slide, please. So we've got another Minty poll, and we're curious what you think is the largest consumer of energy in your home. So I'll give a few minutes and let y'all answer that. Most everybody is saying the HVAC, which you would be correct. We're going to talk about that. I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So know your thermostat. There was a question that came in when y'all registered asking if smart thermostats were worth it. And my answer to that is they're worth it if you're going to use them. So these thermostats, these smart thermostats that you hear about now, they allow you to set schedules so that you can adjust your thermostat when you're away for long periods of time, like during the day, when you're at work, and then you can schedule the thermostat to either bump up in the wintertime to get the home heated up for you, or down in the summertime when you're coming home, so that you're comfortable when you get home, but you're not paying for that comfort with no one there all day. The one thing, if you're going to install any kind of new thermostat, is that you want to make sure, number one, it's compatible with the unit that you have, and number two, that it's installed correctly, because either one or both of those could end up bad scenarios and not give you what you're looking for ultimately, which is the savings. So next slide, please. So again, know your thermostat. I think it's been drilled in most of our heads that 68 in the winter and 78 in the summer. But you can adjust your thermostat. If 68 is comfortable to you and you like a challenge, then bump it down to 67 and see if you can stand it there. Kind of play a game with yourself to see where you can get it, where you're even more comfortable and you're saving money. In the heating months, the important thing is, if you have an electric heat pump, you want to be really careful to only raise the thermostat 1 to 2 degrees at a time. When you raise it any more than that, it may trigger the heat strips. And effectively, your heat strips in a heat pump are kind of like what you see in a toaster oven. They provide extra heat when the heat pump can't keep up with what you're calling for. And those heat strips cost about 3 times as much to operate as your regular heat. So in those really cold winter months, like last Christmas, most of us saw a spike in our bills because of heating. But those of us that have heat pumps may have seen a larger spike because inadvertently those heat strips were going to come on anyway to try to compensate for the cold that we were experiencing. Next slide. So ductwork is often overlooked in homes, especially renters. It's just not something we think about. It's out of sight, out of mind. But you want to periodically check your ductwork for leaks or tears. Most people have ductwork under their home in a crawl space. Sometimes it's in the attic. You'll have to kind of look around and see where yours is. But you want to repair any leaks or tears that you may find with mastic. And that's what you see in the picture. It's kind of a plaster-like substance, and you can paint it on, and it can be found at your local hardware or big box store. And then you also want to restore any fallen or crushed ductwork. You're paying for that nice conditioned air, whether it be hot or warm air or cool air. And if the ductwork is crushed, it can't get it to you properly. So you're paying for it and not feeling a benefit. Additionally, you want to provide some TLC to that heating and cooling unit. You want to try to have it serviced annually by a professional. Typically, we don't have as harsh of a heating season here in South Carolina as we do a cooling season. So if you have to choose when, certainly when it works for your finances, but cooling months may be better to have it serviced before cooling months. You want to check your air filters monthly and change them when they're dirty or as recommended by your heating and air professional. A good rule of thumb is if you're going to change them monthly, change them the day that you get your utility bill. That also encourages you to kind of look at the usage on your bill as well. And then don't block your air returns and leave your interior doors open. Your heating and air unit is designed for your home specifically, and without the proper airflow with the doors open in the interior, it makes it difficult for that air to move through the rooms and heat and cool them properly. Next slide. So space heaters, especially with temperatures cooling down now, are going to become more of a hot topic. The very first thing is safety. You want to look for that UL mark that you see on the right hand of the slide. That means that the unit has met certain strict safety standards. And then you also want to look for a unit that may have a thermostatic control and a tip over safety switch with an automatic shut off. That just guarantees that if your sweet little cat or dog walks by and knocks it over, that it's going to automatically shut off and it won't cause you to have any larger problems. Just kind of like your heating and air unit, you want to select a unit that's sized properly for the room that you're trying to heat. If you've got a really big room and a very tiny space heater, it's never going to achieve what you're looking for. If you're just wanting it to warm your feet and it's aimed right there, then that may work for you. You do only want to use those space heaters when you're in the room. Again, that's a safety thing. And when you're not in the room, you're paying for that heat that nobody's enjoying. So kind of think of it that way. And then use them sparingly. A lot of people think that they're less expensive to operate than the heating and air. But on average, a 1,500 watt space heater is going to cost about $50 a month if you use it for 8 hours a day. So they seem harmless and they're tiny and cute. And we want to think that we're saving or doing something better, but just a little food for thought when it comes to space heaters and how much they cost to operate. Next slide. And then rugs. Rugs are a great source of insulation, especially in these colder months. And if you have hardwood floors, they kind of create not only a coziness, but they give an insulation to the floor and can help keep your apartment or your home feeling warmer in the cool months. Next slide. So which type of light bulb is the most energy efficient? Y'all hinted at this earlier, so I have faith that yes. Anybody else want to chime in? Or we all know that it's the LED. Yeah, so we'll go to the next slide. So lighting and ceiling fans, you want to replace those standard incandescents and the CFLs that we heard about so much years ago with the LED bulbs. They are 90% more efficient and they typically last longer than those incandescents and CFL bulbs. And they make them in a plethora of different colors and you can find three-way bulbs, all that kind of stuff. So they're just as good as their counterparts. Somebody mentioned this earlier, turn off lights, and I'll add and ceiling fans when you're in unused rooms. I'm guilty of this. If y'all are like me, I have 2 dogs that stay home during the day and they like to be cool. So I leave the ceiling fans on for them. But the truth is that ceiling fans just circulate that conditioned air and make you feel cooler when you're in the room. So if there's no one there again to enjoy it, they should be turned off just like the lights. And then you want to make sure that your fans are running clockwise in winter and counterclockwise in summer. So clockwise in winter is going to take the warm air that has risen to the ceiling and push it downwards so that you can feel that warmer air. Counterclockwise is going to circulate that cooler air in the warmer summer months. Next slide. And then an often overlooked area are those exterior electrical outlets that are on exterior walls. So I don't know how many of you have ever walked by an exterior wall and it feels like a little draft, or you've gone to plug something in and it feels cooler towards that outlet. That is a draft coming through the outlet. So they make these nifty little things you can see in the picture, and they're just little insulation plates. You can find those at your big box stores or your local hardware store. And you take the little screw out in the middle and pop the insulator in and then put it right back on, and it seals that electrical outlet for you. They make them in different sizes. That's the most standard size that you see, but they do make them for the larger plates as well. And then everybody's favorite, caulking and weather stripping. We did have a question come in with registration about the threshold on the bottom of the door, like a screen door. They do make some sweep type devices that kind of slide on the bottom of the door and then it's almost a feature they have little feet, it almost looks like. And those can be effective for screen doors. But you want to caulk, seal, and weather strip any cracks, openings, or seams to windows and exterior doors. And for you renters, I know sometimes that can be a touchy subject with your landlord, but it's often easy to have a conversation, because if you're comfortable in a home and you're a good renter, they want to keep you there. And if you're going to do things that are going to make you more comfortable, as well as possibly save you some money, then you may be willing to stay there a little longer, depending on your circumstances. So it could be a win-win for you and your landlord. Just keep those lines of communication open. I know windows in particular are something that they tend to be a little more picky about, but the weather stripping, you definitely want to weather strip around those exterior doors. I like to tell people, if you take all that weather stripping that you're using and you were to put it in a circular shape, and if you had a hole in an exterior wall that was that big, you wouldn't walk past it and just think that that was okay. You would want to repair it. So you kind of have to think of your door the same way. And all that weather stripping adds up and can create a much more comfortable environment. But in addition, these drafts can cause your heating and air system to work overtime, especially depending on where your thermostat is placed. If it's near one of these exterior doors that gets opened and closed a lot, or that has a lot of drafts, that can impact your thermostat and what it's reading. So we talked about the door sweeps. And then that's at the threshold at the bottom of your doors. There's a thicker weather stripping that you can put at the bottom of the door. And all these materials are relatively inexpensive and can also be found at your big box stores and your local hardware stores. Next slide, please. Chenille's going to talk to us about the Energy Saver tool.
That's right, Energy Saver tool and energysaver.sc.gov. So the South Carolina Energy Office has the Energy Saver website, and it gives you tips very similar to the ones that Gretchen and I just went through. And they are not just for homes and renters, but there are also tips for businesses as well. One of the features of the Energy Saver website is the Energy Saver tool. And that tool gives you put in your utility provider and your location, and it gives you a list of rebates or incentives offered by a lot of utility providers. It even has information on there about manufactured housing. I know that because my name is listed. So we recommend that you check out the energysaver.sc.gov website, as well as the Energy Saver tool, because they could be very helpful. They're great resources, And we want to make sure people have the information so you can save energy and save money. Everyone loves that. Okay, so we have our last Menti question or Menti poll, and this one is open-ended. We want to know if there are any services offered by your utility provider that you've already taken advantage of. And if so, list the name of the program and the provider. Not yet. I like the optimism.
Yes, me too.
Hopefully, the person who said not yet will look into the Energy Saver tool and see what is available for them. Dominion Lighting Store. Okay, well, even if you can't remember, that's great that you have. SCE&G Home Audit. Okay. Discount from a Dominion site. Anything else? Okay, well, once again, if you're not sure about any programs that exist, check out the Energy Saver website and hopefully you'll find a service that will work for you and comes from your utility provider. That's our whole goal with that website, is to provide tips for anyone, homeowner, renter, business, resident, because we want you to save energy and save money. It's a good thing for everyone. Okay, so with that, we just completely ran through this. You can feel free to reach out to either Gretchen or you can reach out to me if you want more information about the tips you learned today. And I am going to start checking the chat to see what questions we have that have rolled in. Okay, there's one that says use insulation. That's one tip someone provided.
And that's a great tip, Chenille. Insulation just tends to be a little more expensive. And we were more focused on low cost and no cost. But insulation is a great idea if it's something that a homeowner or even a renter can work out with their landlord to include as part of their weatherization of the home to make it more energy efficient. And the insulation is going to make it more comfortable.
Right. Speaking of weatherization, Gretchen, can you talk a little bit about what weatherization is and how one can go through that process of getting their home weatherized?
Yeah, so weatherization is just making sure that your home is energy efficient. And there's a big focus on they call it the building envelope. So you're looking at your exterior walls and then the ceiling or the attic and making sure that that area is sealed within reason. If you've got combustible appliances, there's some things that apply to that, and those are your natural gas appliances or your other appliances that aren't electric. But you're going to look at things kind of like we talked about, air sealing, windows, doors, things like that. And then also looking at the attic space, making sure that the insulation is sufficient and that any gaps and cracks are sealed up there as well. And that's not only for comfort, it's also to make sure that your heating and air system is working properly, and then you're going to save money. And then I see a question in the chat about the IRA benefits for weatherization. So most of y'all, or you may or may not be aware that South Carolina has been allotted a good portion of money through the Investment Recovery Act to provide rebates and put some programs in place that will help customers with some of this weatherization. At this point in time, we have applied for early administrative funding, and that funding will be used to work to help develop what these programs will look like. One program is the one that will do the weatherization piece, and the other one is kind of they're billing it as an electrification piece of getting more efficient appliances in homes. So we don't know what those programs will look like at this point. We're still in the planning process. And there are some pretty broad guidelines because each state is being given the opportunity to make the programs work for the citizens of their state. And then there, on the flip side of that, there's some pretty stringent guidelines that the federal government is asking us to make sure that we abide by in putting the programs together. So our hope is that we'll have the early administrative funding by the end of the year, and we can begin to plan what those programs will look like and then get them approved and hopefully rolled out sometime next year, the first part of 2025. It just, some of the timing is in our court as far as getting our application in and getting things, the planning piece of things ready. And then some of the timing is in the federal government's court in getting us that money so that we can move forward.
Yes, we've gotten quite a few questions in the office about IRA rebates, especially when it comes to heat pumps. It's been very interesting. Okay, there is another comment. Oh, we have a comment and a question. So having the front glass door and windows tinted, how do you think that will impact the temperature or the climate of your home?
So I don't, me personally, I don't know that it's going to impact the way that your heating and air unit operates. It's probably going to make it feel cooler in your home, and then maybe you won't need to turn the thermostat up or down as much. But the tinting, it can definitely help. It helps more with comfort, I think, than it does cost.
That's good to know. I thought that was a really interesting
Mm-hmm.
comment. Um, let's see. Is there a tool to calculate the amount of insulation to use in the attic space per square foot?
I'm sure there's some kind of tool out there. There's not one that I'm familiar with or that I would
Yeah.
recommend. The rule of thumb is it's an R value, and that's typically it's the thickness. And I want to say that right now the recommended is R38. But I was talking with somebody about this in the office not too long ago that is something a lot of people choose to do themselves. They go, excuse me, to Lowe's or Home Depot or one of their local stores and get, I call it the Pink Panther insulation. That shows my age. And just, you can just roll it out on top of what's already there. Some people like to just fill in spots. Um, my belief is it's better to have some than have none, or do something than nothing. But if in this case, that's where you could also get a few quotes from people to see, what would they recommend? Do they think you just need to fill in certain spaces and they'll charge you to do that? Or are they trying to sell you all of it? And it might be something that you could do yourself. But I'm not aware of a tool, or at least not one I would recommend that I use on a regular basis to help calculate that.
Okay, sort of shifting gears a little bit, and this ties into Gretchen, your slide about adjusting your thermostat.
Mhm.
So what if someone is away or out of town or away from their home for a long period of time? And how should they handle their thermostat adjusting under those conditions? I mean, that's not the exact question in the
Yeah.
chat.
So,
Summarizing it.
Yeah, so going back to that, like we said, you want to adjust it when you're not there to use what you're paying for. Um, I never encourage people to turn the unit off completely, especially in the summertime. We all know how humid it can be here in South Carolina, and part of your HVAC's job in the summertime is to get rid of humidity in your home. So you run the risk of, I mean, most people typically are gone for a week. Some people may be gone longer, but you turn that unit off and then you get humidity in your home, which can breed all kind of other issues. So as an example, when I go out of town in the summertime with my family on vacation, I typically set my thermostat to about 80, between 82 and 85. Gasp, I know that sounds awful, and very miserable, but I'm not there and my dogs aren't there. So, nobody's there to enjoy it. And I do have a friend that I love so much, and she'll go to my house the night before I'm coming home and she'll turn my thermostat back down for me. So when I get home the next day, it's comfortable and I don't miss a beat. Um, and then in the wintertime, same thing. You can take your thermostat down when you're away for extended periods of time, but I never recommend turning it off because we don't know what the weather may bring. And if it gets down to freezing or below, you run the risk of your pipes could burst. There could be a bunch of issues that happen because the heat in your home is keeping things warm and keeping things moving through those pipes when they need to. So, um, I would say adjust the thermostat when you're away for those extended periods, and that's where those programmable thermostats can help too. And the smart thermostats, because you can set that schedule. You could even call it your vacation schedule or summer vacation schedule. But that would be my recommendation.
And there's also just the fact that you're having to consume a lot of energy with that vast gap in temperature difference.
Correct.
So while you're gone, again, you're not using the heating or cooling because you're not at home. But if you turn it off and then your unit has to jump, I don't know, 10 degrees, that could be drastic. I don't know how much
It's,
variation there would be
you're
if
very
a
right.
unit is completely off, but that's consuming energy as well.
Right. And none of us like to be too hot or too cold, especially when we come back from vacation. So, and we're impatient. We want it to get to where we want it to be comfortable really quickly. So, good point.
We need a friend like yours. Everyone needs a friend like
Yeah,
yours.
yes, definitely. She lives nearby, so that makes it easier, but
I hope you bake her cookies or something.
yes, always bring back treats. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we have more conversations in the chat. I love it. Um, okay, Rick made a comment, window shading or tinting may also be more or less effective depending on the orientation of the windows. Yes, I think the person who originally had a question or comment about it says that the western sun sets on the front, and so that's why they were considering having the front glass doors and windows tinted.
Hmm.
So there is some sun orientation thought consideration going into that as well
Yeah.
for that person. Okay, let's see, what else? What else? A smart thermostat can sense when you're home or even set up a geofence that will automatically change the set point when you're coming home. That's good to know. I didn't know that.
I
And
thank you, Linda.
yeah, geofencing, super fancy.
Yes.
Let's see what else. Some utilities like Duke offer smart thermostats for a reduced price through online store. Also good to know. There is another resource for people who are interested in finding out more services that are uh, available to customers.
And I think that's important too, is um all of the utilities have great resources. I just don't know that, I mean, myself included, I don't know that we're aware of everything that's out there. And that energy saver tool is really great. It asks for the name of your utility, and then I think it asks one other question, and then it'll pull up a whole list of things for you that you may qualify for. So definitely check that one out. But also contact your utility provider because they're a wealth of information and they do have lots of programs. Like Linda was saying, Duke offers the smart thermostat at a reduced price. So
Yes, the other thing that the Energy Saver tool asks is whether or not you qualify for low income programs. And you don't have to put your specific income in there, but you just select yes or no, and then it lists other options and services that are available to folks who fall into that category. So that's something else to know. Okay, Priscilla asks, hi Priscilla. Priscilla asks, what is the effect on energy usage of windows that are sealed shut so that cool breezes from outside cannot be enjoyed between seasons and at night? So basically, should you leave your windows open? When should you leave your windows open?
well, and I think I'm wondering about the ceiling piece of it because like the ceiling piece is the exterior of the window. You don't, if you have a choice, you don't want to seal the window shut. You just want to make sure that the gaps on the outside are sealed. And like cracks and things like that in the panes are taken care of. But as far as if they're sealed shut purposely, like if you're a renter and you go into this home and they have sealed them, there's really not much you can do. But as long as you have the thermostat set to where the unit is not going to come on, and you want to enjoy the cool breezes from outside at night or between seasons, then I do that at my house. I don't see a problem with that. I don't know. Somebody else may have different information, but I just always make sure that it's not in a situation or a season where that if I open the windows that it's going to make my home so cold that then my heat will come on and I'm paying for that heat and then it's going outside. If that makes sense, Priscilla.
Yes,
That was probably clear as mud, but
no. I mean, that made sense to me.
okay.
When I moved into my house, my windows were sealed shut, and I mean, it was fine in the winter because, the heat was trapped in, but at the same time, I don't want to have to always run the air if there's a cool breeze outside.
Yeah.
So I definitely broke those things open, and now I
Yeah.
can open my windows and it's not a fire hazard.
Mhm. Definitely.
Okay, are there any more questions or comments? These have been great. I've really enjoyed
Very
these.
good.
Okay, I wish there were the three little dots where you can see where someone is typing in the chat
That would be nice.
and in text. That would be nice instead of just waiting.
Or put your hand up like you do in some of the other meetings. You have like a put your hand up. I'm typing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. Okay, well, if there is nothing else, we thank you all so much for being here today. You all got a little bit of extra time back during your lunch breaks if you're on your lunch break. Um, yeah, and we hope you use these tips and tricks to help save energy and money around your home. Feel free to contact us if you have any more questions. Check out the Energy Saver website and Energy Saver tool, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.